Welcome, fight fans. We're back. Episode 25 now. Whoa! Quarter of the way to the century mark. How about that? So, today, of course, we're going to be talking all about UFC Vegas 47 because there wasn't anything last week. So, we're just going to jump right on into this week's card. It's a bit of a sleeper card. Some people don't like that, but you know what? Those are usually the best ones. And not only that, we've got 4 Canadians on the card. You've got Malcolm Gordon, Alexis Davis, Marc-Andre Barriault, Hakeem Dawodu, and that's it. That's all 4. I was going to say a 5th, but there wasn't a 5th. All 4 of them. That's crazy. We never have that many Canadians. The most we really have usually is 1 or maybe 2. So 4, amazing. You love to see it. Also, we've got, of course, the main event, Sean Strickland, Jack Hermansson. Very interesting fight. But what I'm excited about too is this is the fight that was supposed to be going on in the Ultimate Fighter finale in the middleweight division. It was supposed to be Brian Battle, Tresean Gore. So we're going to see that too. We're going to talk about that. But first, of course, we'll start with the main card. The first one opening the main card, at least as of now. I don't know why they've been doing this, but the last 2 events, they've switched everything around on me on like the Thursday, which means I have to switch everything for the article. But right now, as it stands, we're starting off with Julian Arosa and Steven Peterson. It's a featherweight matchup. Arosa had a terrible start to his UFC career after winning a contract on the Contender Series. Got 3 losses in a row, ended up leaving the UFC, but he's got his spot back, and he's gone 3-1 after that. And with the recent submission win over Charles Jourdain, which we just saw, it was a few months ago. I didn't write down when it was. And he's the only person who's ever finished Jourdain in his pro career. So that is something big. And Peterson also had a bit of a rocky start to his career, went 3-3 so far, but he's on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Chase Hooper, Martin Bravo. I mean, I like Chase Hooper. He's a cool guy, really chill. If you follow him on social media, really cool guy. But he's still so young. He's so young. He's got so much to learn. I just don't know if he really stacks up to a lot of the rest, especially in featherweights. Featherweight's so tough. I don't really know if he stacks up like that. Either way, but yeah, because of that, I think this is a really tight matchup. I think Arosa has a slight edge in the matchup. He's got a bit of a slight better record recently. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage. Probably has an advantage on the ground too. So I would say that'll help him a lot. Peterson has also only been finished once in his whole career. So I think we're probably seeing a decision here because of that. But don't forget, Arosa is also the only person to finish Jourdain. So, I mean, if I would have talked about that fight before it happened, I would have said, you're probably not going to see a finish here because Jourdain has never been finished. But he finished him. So, you never know. We could see a finish here. And I'm saying, could be on the ground here. You never know. Finish never out of the question with this guy. And because all 3 of his UFC wins have been by a finish, we actually really could see a finish here. In fact, I'm going to say we might actually see a finish. I'm going to lean that way. That's what I'm going to write in the article. Arosa by finish. That's what I'm going with here. And of course, we'll go with the odds. Where is my banner? Show me the banner. There it is. Bet99 moving over there. What do we got? They've got Arosa minus 313 right now. I'm not sure it's that one-sided. I don't think it's that one-sided at all, actually. Very interesting odds indeed. maybe put a little bit on the underdog. I don't know. I don't think I would include this in a parlay. I will say that, even though it isn't minus 313. I just can't say that anybody should be that confident that he's going to win this. I don't know. The over-under on this, minus 123. I mean, the over, I should say, is minus 123. The under 2.5 is minus 105. So they're saying it's pretty even here. I would say, like I said, you might see a finish. So you really could go either way on this. The odds are great either way, honestly. But you might even want to pick a little bit on the underdog just because I think it's a lot closer than that. You might get something here. After that, we've got the tough finale that was supposed to happen. Like I said, Brian Battle, Tresean Gore. So what was supposed to happen originally, that was supposed to be the middleweight finale, but Tresean got injured. So instead we saw Gilbert Urbina, who had lost actually to Tresean Gore, getting finished in the second round, which is exactly actually what Brian Battle did in the real finale. He finished him in the second round. So this is very, very even. I mean, we're also talking about two people who really, I mean, they're not technically UFC fight. I mean, like, yes, Brian Battle is a UFC fighter, but, they've never fought anybody that's on that level yet. So, I mean, they're still very early in their careers, I'm not trying to knock them. Obviously, they're both really good. Of course, they were on the show and they got to the finals. Of course, they're good. But, they're still fairly inexperienced, of course. So Battle is 6-1, was 5-1, of course, before he won the finale. Gore is 3-0. Like I said, he's only 3 fights deep. 3 fights deep. That's it. Battle, 7 fights deep. Very, very young in their career. So anything could happen at that point. So really could go either way. But I'm saying the difference here is that, for one, Gore was actually the favorite originally going into that finale. That, you should keep that in mind. That, and he used to be, I think it's probably because he used to fight at light heavyweight. That's probably why the odds are a little bit in his favor. He used to fight at 205, made his way down 20 pounds to fight at middleweight for tough. So, and he was getting finishes. He's 3-0. He got finishes there. So, that always means that he's at least used to getting hit. And not only that, if he's got finishes, he's got enough power and technique to finish somebody at light heavyweight. Yes, of course, only 3-0. We're not talking about somebody who's 10 or 15-0. It's different, but still, remember that. And that is why I think there's a slight bit of difference here, because we're talking about two people who have that lack of experience. We're not talking about one of them has way more experience than the other. They're both basically at the same level. So I'm thinking here, Gore by finish, because of that extra light heavyweight. He's probably got the extra power. He definitely looks bigger too. I think, was there extra reach here? I didn't write it. No, I don't think there was, or else I would have written that down. Anyway, so I'm giving the edge towards Gore here. And if you look at the odds, it's basically exactly what I said. They're very close. Battle right now is at plus 136. Gore, minus 167. So, yeah. It's basically what I said. It's very close, but people are somewhat leaning towards Gore. But you got to remember, too, though, Battle did just win the finale. He's got that extra confidence. He clearly has the skill. He's been in front of, he did the UFC thing, the lights, the cameras, everything. He did it. So, it could go either way. I'm just leaning towards Gore, though. The over-under on this one, minus 109 for over 2.5, minus 118 for under 2.5. We're thinking probably a finish here. Again, two very inexperienced fighters. There's usually a finish in there somewhere. I would definitely put some money on the under here. Minus 118. Perfect odds for that. Amazing. Amazing. Definitely, I would be putting some money on that. I will be putting some money on that. So, next up. This is a weird one. This is the third opponent that Sam Alvey had for this weekend. Originally, it was Ian Heinisch. Then he dropped out. Then Phil Hawes came in. Then Phil Hawes got injured. So now it's Brendan Allen. And we just saw Allen in December after he got finished by Chris Curtis. Crazy stuff going on here. What was I going to say here? Before he had that loss, though, to Brendan Allen I'm talking about, before he had that loss to Chris Curtis, he had career wins over Kevin Holland, Kyle Dawkins, and Tom Breeze. 3 very, very good fighters. So that's pretty good. And not only that, his only loss in the UFC before that was to one of the headliners this weekend, Sean Strickland. So Brendan Allen, very good. Very, very good. On the other hand, Sam Alvey. I mean, I like the guy. He's a nice guy, but he hasn't won in his last 7 fights. He's lost 6, got 1 draw in there, majority draw in there. Oh boy. What do you do with that? Honestly, I'm a little surprised that he's still in the UFC. That never happens. You don't lose, you don't not win for 7 fights in a row and still be in the UFC. That's crazy. So, I will say a lot of those were actually by split decision. So they could have gone either way. And that's probably why he's still there, because they weren't unanimous. He didn't get finished in most of those. So, you don't necessarily want to kick somebody out for mostly split decision losses. That being said, when you're trying to pick somebody to win, you're probably going to go for the other guy. You're probably going to go with Brendan Allen on this one. I mean, Alvey hasn't won in 7 fights. That's not promising. Allen is 9 years younger. He was also ranked just a couple months ago, and he's only lost twice in his whole UFC career. So the safe bet, very clearly Allen on this one. And since Allen has a few submission wins in the UFC and Alvey has some submission losses, I'm saying, maybe to make a little bit of extra cash on this, maybe you could throw some money on the submission finish here, or at least a finish for sure. For the odds, and that's because of these odds here, the odds plus 300 for Sam Alvey, minus 400 for Brendan Allen. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. This would definitely be one that I would throw in a parlay for sure. And like I said, if you want to try and squeeze some action into this, maybe go for a submission win, put a couple bucks on that. Maybe just even, bet on a finish there. Make some money where you can, right? After that, a very exciting bout. This is actually one of the most exciting ones of the night, I would say. Shavkat Rakhmonov and Carlston Harris. Welterweights, undefeated Rakhmonov and Carlston Harris, who just came in the UFC last year, but he got 2 first-round submission wins. They're very, very evenly matched on this. They're so evenly matched. It's crazy. I mean, people are leaning towards Rakhmonov a lot more, of course, because of his undefeated record. But they've done the exact same thing in the UFC. They've both got 2 submission wins early. Those are both of their wins. So, I'm going to lean Rakhmonov too. He's 7 years younger. He seems to be more dangerous on the feet here, which makes a difference because, like I said, they both have submission wins, 2 in the UFC. Very clearly, both very dangerous on the ground. So normally when that happens, you end up seeing a stand-up fight. And I think that's probably what we're going to lean towards here. So I think Rakhmonov is more dangerous on the feet. Plus, he's got the undefeated record. Plus, he's 7 years younger. So, yeah, I'm going towards Rachmanov on this one. And because they seem to get so many finishes, and it's welterweight too. You know, we're not talking about featherweights or bantamweights. We're talking about welterweights here. So I'm thinking we're probably going to see a finish. So I'm saying Rachmanov by finish. Let's see the odds. Rachmanov minus 240 right now. Carlston Harris. Well, it's weird that they put his name backwards on here. That's silly. They put his name backwards on Bet99. It says Harris Carlston. Anyway, Carlston Harris plus 190 right now over there. It's so even that you might even want to, like I said, for the other fight, you might even want to throw a little bit on Carlston Harris, just a little bit. Or even try and set up a parlay and then put a little bit on Carlston just in case he wins and make that money back, something like that. Because it's so even. It really is. I don't think it deserves to be that one-sided. I think, again, that's just because he's undefeated and he's done so well. But the other guy is so good too. Carlston's so good too. So, it's a lot closer than it looks on this one. The over-under on this one is actually over-under 1.5 rounds. Over 1.5, minus 116. Under 1.5, minus 12. I would probably bet on the over on this one. I don't really think either one of these guys is going to get finished in the first round. Maybe late, maybe sometime in the second. So could be on the edge there. You might get it at the end of the second. Or you might even see a decision here. Because like I said, it's very, very close. Very close. So I think the money here is on the over side. That's very good. I will definitely be putting a little change on that one. Next, the co-main event. It is Punaheli, Soriano, Nick Maximov. They've got a combined record of 15 wins and 1 loss. Very used to winning, both of these guys. Soriano's only loss is actually to Brendan Allen, who we just talked about. Other than that, he's got 2 first-round wins in the UFC. One of them was over Dushko Todorovic, who we actually saw, I think it was in December. We talked about him a decent amount there. Great fighter. As for Maximov, he's only got the 1 fight here so far. I do remember that. And it was a win over Cody Brundage in September. I remember it actually because he trains with Nick Diaz, and you don't usually see Nick Diaz around the UFC things too much anymore. So I was like, oh, that's really cool actually that he's brought somebody in and he was pretty good. I will say I thought he was going to be way better. That's nothing against him at all, and I will say I will end up picking him here, but I thought he was going to look much better. Anyway, I will get into why I'm picking him though. This was a very tough one. Oh, actually, before I say that, if you're a fan of UFC Fight Pass and watch Submission Underground, I haven't gotten quite into it yet, but I've seen some clips here and there. He's actually been on there 9 times. 9 times Maximov has. That right there should tell you all about him. The fact that he's doing basically every Submission Underground that comes on now, he's on it. So that should tell you right there, he is very, very good on the ground. And you probably could tell that because he trains with Nick Diaz. So it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, and that's kind of why I'm picking him here. It was a tough one. I will say it's very, very close here for me. I'm looking at the odds here to see what they're saying. Yeah, very interesting on the odds. What was I going to say? I can't help but think it is very close. I can't help but think that it actually kind of favors Maximov. He's 5 years younger, so there's that. I mean, Soriano is only 29, so it's not like it's, 30 and 35. It's 29 and 24, so you're not seeing that much of a crazy difference. But still, it's something. He has a slight reach advantage, though, too, and he's amazing on the ground. So you've got the reach advantage, which always favors the striker. So, I mean, If you've got a longer reach than the striker and you're the guy who's going to try and take him down, you've already got a huge advantage. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good start to have. And he's got obviously crazy ground skills if he's doing the submission underground so much. So what I think is probably going to happen is Maximov, he's going to grind Soriano along the fence, probably get some takedowns in there. I'm saying he's probably going to get a decision win like that. He's just going to make it really dirty because Soriano is a striker. He doesn't really do much ground stuff. So, I think the odds, I don't really know why the odds are so one-sided on this. I do say it really could go either way. And of course, Soriano could land some bombs to stumble Maximov, get the win like that. That was weird. There was something weird outside. But I'm definitely giving the edge towards Maximov on this one. I really am. And that's surprising because I'll let you in on the odds now. The odds are at minus 193 for Soriano. Maximov plus 157. And considering it was that close already, like I said for a couple of the other fights, if it's that close, you might as well put a little bit on the underdog because you're going to get your money back that way. I mean, it's, but yeah, I just think it's so much closer than that. Like I said, I mean, when you've got a striker like Soriano and then Maximov is so good on the ground, clearly submission undergrounds all over the place. He's also undefeated. Like I said, he's undefeated. He's the undefeated one going into this, and he's got all that ground experience, and they're giving it towards Soriano. I just don't see it. I don't know. Maybe it's because Soriano has fought a couple of better people, like I said, but he lost to Brendan Allen. So, I'm not seeing why the odds are this one-sided. So the value here is very much on the Maximov side for sure. And I will definitely be putting money on that. And the over-under here is actually over 1.5 rounds for minus 155, mixing up the words here. And under 1.5 is plus 120. I would say that doesn't make a lot of sense as to why. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, but I think we're probably seeing a decision here. Like I said, Maximov is not going to make this easy at all. He's just going to grind him against the fence a lot. So I'm saying, I said probably seeing a decision here. So I would say the money is definitely on the over 1.5. Even if it was 2.5, I probably would say maybe stay away from this one. But 1.5, definitely go towards the minus 155 on this one. I mean, that just makes sense. It just makes sense. It's right there. The main event, Jack Hermansson, Sean Strickland. Who, buddy, is going to be good. Grappler and striker. I mean, really, any fight that has Strickland in it is going to be entertaining. I don't really like him as a person. He is hilarious, though, but I don't think I'd want to actually be around him. But watching him on Twitter is hilarious, though, I will say. And watching him fight is kind of fun, too. That being said, all that aside, we'll keep the outside of the octagon, of course, as always. Hermansson has been in the UFC since 2016, fought his way to the top of the rankings now, of course, again, by winning against Gastelum and Shabazian. Shabazian, bit of a downward spiral. Gastelum, I mean, maybe a little bit of a downward spiral there too, for sure. But Gastelum is very good. Sadly, he's also got recent losses, though, against Cannonier and Vettori. But of course, they're very good. That's really the top four. Izzy, Whitaker, Cannonier, Vettori. That's the top four. So, basically, I would say Hermansson's fifth. Behind those guys. Anyway, and then Strickland is probably right there, basically tied with him right now, and we'll see who's better. Obviously, I think I've got an opinion on this one, of course. That's why we're here. But anyway, continuing on. As for the brazen trash talker Strickland, literally never stops talking. Basically like Kevin Holland, honestly. Except for maybe a bit more aggressive, because Kevin Holland is more hilarious and trying to be funny. And I mean, Strickland is too, but he's maybe a little more edgy and a little more aggressive with it for sure. Like scary almost. But anyway, very entertaining. Like I said, it's going to be interesting what happens either way. But anyway, as for what he's been doing, let's see. He's been on a tear since he got back in the UFC. He had a terrible accident. I think it was something to do with a motorcycle. I think he was in a motorcycle accident, I believe, somewhere in late 2018 or something. Spent a lot of time off, of course. I mean, it was really bad. But then he came back in 2020, and what did he do? He's won 4 straight since then, including Uriah Hall, which is why he's at the near the top of the rankings now. Because Uriah Hall, very good, very good. So we've got a classic grappler and striker thing, just like actually the co-main. So normally I would go with the grappler, which is exactly what I did in the last one. But in this case, I'm going to have to go with the striker, I think, which is Strickland in this case. Hermansson tends to struggle with heavy, active strikers like him because Strickland never stops moving forward, never stops doing anything, honestly. He's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, Hermansson doesn't tend to do well with that. He tends to do better when people aren't literally pressuring him the entire time, which is exactly why he lost to Vettori and Cannonier. Of course, Vettori, one of the most active middleweights there is. He literally never stops moving forward, never stops moving at all, never stops throwing everything he can at it. And that's exactly what Strickland does too. So I think Hermansson's going to have a problem with that. And that is why I'm going with Strickland on this one. But I will say, I know I said I'd keep the personality stuff and the outside of the octagon stuff outside of the octagon. But in this case, it's a little bit of a worry because actually a few months, actually, no, it was last month in December, Strickland went on the Submission Underground. You should really look up this video. Crazy stuff. It was hilarious, actually. But not good when you're trying to pick somebody and not good when you're trying to fight a grappler. What he did was, I don't know if he forgot what he was doing or if he forgot the rules or if he thought the round was over. I have no clue what he was thinking. But he just stood up and turned his back towards the other guy and started walking. And then his opponent literally just jumped on his back and got a submission in less than like 5 seconds. Really weird. It was hilarious to watch because, I mean, and he was funny about it. Like, he wasn't pissed or anything. He was just like, oh, whoops. But, you know, it's kind of concerning when you're fighting a grappler in your next fight. So there is a little bit of that too. You know, that's a little bit of outside the octagon stuff, but still, you got to kind of keep that in mind because that's not good. Anyway, so I have Strickland by decision on this one. Let's look at the odds. Bet 99. Hermansson plus 180 on this one. Strickland minus 220 on this one. I would say it's maybe a little bit one-sided. I thought it would have been slightly closer because Hermansson has fought definitely the higher caliber people, you know, Gastelum, Shabazian, Cannonier. What was the other one? Vettori. And Strickland's never done that. So, you know, this could be a case where the trash talker, the personality, might be edging ahead on the odds just because of his personality alone. We could be seeing that. It could also be because, of course, he's on the 4-fight win streak. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still going towards Strickland, of course, but I think the odds are a little bit wacky on that one. I'm not sure if I would take advantage of that. I'm not sure if I would put too much on that one. But the over-under, very interesting, is over 4.5 rounds, minus 120, under 4.5 rounds, minus 106. Very interesting. I would not have thought that. I honestly would have thought that they would have put it at around 3.5 rounds. That would have probably made more sense. I do think we're probably seeing a decision here, but we're also talking about Hermansson, who is a very, very good guy on the ground, and Strickland, who's very good on the feet. So normally when you've got that kind of clash of styles, you tend to see a finish in either direction. So at minus 106 for under 4.5 rounds, because remember, this is a 5-round fight. Under 4.5 is minus 106 right now. That's amazing. Definitely putting some money on that one. That is just begging to be taken advantage of. We've got some prelims I want to talk about, of course. But before we do that, and by the way, they're all Canadian. 4 Canadian prelims I want to talk about. Before we do that, we'll take a little bit of a tiny break. We'll be back in 45 seconds right after this.
Allow me to introduce High Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating victory or drinking to defeat, High Stick Vodka is better after every shot. Visit us at highstickvodka.com. It also comes in this regular bottle. Celebrate victory. Drink responsibly.
Welcome back. So, as I said, we're going to be talking about the prelims now. They've each got a Canadian fighter in them, which we love to see. They're also just really good fights coming up. So, the first prelim of the night, at least for now, it's the first one. Who knows what they're going to be doing? We've got the first of 4 Canadian fighters, Malcolm Gordon, going against Dennis Bondar. Where's my odds here? I'll get it ready. Anyway, he's had a bit of a rough start to his UFC career, the Canadian, of course. He's got 2 first-round losses, tried to turn it around last year and got a decision win over Francisco Figueiredo. You know, that's a bit of a rough start, getting 2 first-round losses. On the other side, a newcomer to the UFC, Dennis Bondar. He may be new to the UFC, but he's currently sitting at a record of 16-3 with a 10-fight win streak. The difference maker here to me, because this is a little bit of a toss-up, you know, because it is, Gordon may not have had a good start, but he has been in the UFC for a little bit and Bondar hasn't. So you never know with that kind of experience. It could go either way. But the difference maker here is that Bondar used to fight at bantamweight. And this is his first one at flyweight. So he's cutting down. And that could mean a bunch of things, but it does mean that Gordon is definitely going to have a hard time with the power. He's also going to have a hard time doing anything of value to Bondar because, of course, he's used to being hit, used to the power and just the power, I guess, coming back at him. And that's, of course, on the ground and on the feet. So, yeah. It's tough here because, like I said, you know, you got one rough stretch on the one side and a newcomer on the other side. You could go with the UFC experience, or you could go with Bondar, who's on a 10-fight win streak right now. In this case, because of the momentum, like I said, and the fact that Bondar used to fight at bantamweight, I'm giving him the edge here. And because these guys are at flyweight, I think we're probably seeing a decision here. But Bondar has quite a few submission wins. And like I said, he is used to throwing around bantamweights. And he's 16-3. So he's obviously very good with bantamweights too. So it could go, you know, I'm definitely leaning towards Bondar on this one. I mean, the odds in this case, where's my banner? Show me the banner. We've got Gordon at plus 200 and Bondar at minus 260. I guess that's kind of fair. I would say it probably should be a little bit closer, but it's kind of fair. I mean, because of all the things I just listed, especially since Gordon is 2 losses in, and then, of course, a decision win. So, meh. The over-under on this one is what's very interesting. It's over and under 1.5 rounds. So over 1.5 is at minus 167 right now. under 1.5 plus 130. I would definitely go with the over on this one. Like I said, they're two flyweights. I mean, yes, Bondar fought a bantamweight, but still, you don't normally see a whole lot of finishes here. You could definitely see Bondar getting a submission win. Like I said, a lot of submissions, and Gordon isn't necessarily the best down there. So you could see one. But at 1.5 rounds, the money is definitely on the minus 167 side of it for sure. On the over 1.5, I should say. What was I going to say? If it was 2.5, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it at all. But 1.5, definitely favoring you there. Definitely favored. After that, the next Canadian one on the women's side, Alexis Davis and Julia Stolia Renko. One of the first UFC fighters, women UFC fighters, actually, the Canadian Alexis Davis. She joined all the way back in 2013. If I remember correct, that is actually the year that the women joined the UFC, from what I remember. I'm pretty sure. And she's matched up against Stolia Renko, who's only had 2 bouts in the UFC so far. But, you know, although Davis has been in the UFC for a long time, recently her career, a little bit of a downward trajectory, I would say. I just choked. Excuse me. My God, I almost died. She's gone 1-4 in the past 4 years. All of those losses were by decision, though. So to top contenders Kianzad, Araujo, Maya, and Chookagian. So, you know, we're not talking about a bunch of, I don't know what I was even going to say there. A bunch of losers, I guess. You know, they're top tier contenders. So, and they were all decisions. So, you know. And Julia also had a rough time with both of her UFC appearances ending in a loss. So both of them on a little bit of a downward trajectory here, which is why I'm going to say this is a complete coin toss, really, to me. Both of them are on a rough streak right now. Usually that means that probably one of them, this is going to be their last fight. You never want to see that, but, you know, or you could be Sam Alvey and lose 7 in a row. Or not win 7 in a row, I guess. But, you know, it's so close on this one. Physically, they're almost identical. The only difference here is that Davis is a fairly significant 9 years older, of course. And of course, we mentioned that basically. You know, it's pretty obvious when you've been fighting here since 2013, you're probably going to be the older fighter. But the edge here to me goes towards experience. She's only had those decision losses in a row, you know. They're decision losses. They're all against tough people. And Stolia Renko, is that her name? Stolia Renko doesn't necessarily have that experience. I mean, she's never fought that caliber of fighter. So I would say Alexis Davis has the edge here because of that. But, you know, you might even want to just throw a little bit on the underdog here because it's so dead even. It really is. The odds on this one, minus 234 for Davis right now, plus 183 for Stolia Renko. I think that is wildly one-sided for somebody that's gone 1-4 in the past 4 years. That's crazy to me that she's gone 1-4 and she's minus 234 right now. So like I said, maybe a little bit of value actually if you're going to throw some money on the underdog on this one. I still think Davis has a little bit of a better shot. But like I said, if you're willing to take a little bit of a risk, I'll write this in the article. I would go with Stolia Renko on this just because of that. The over-under, though, makes a lot of sense. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 250. The under 2.5, plus 185. You know, we're talking about women, and we're also talking about women who both have a lot of, well, Davis especially has a lot of decisions. So it makes a lot of sense. We're probably seeing an over here. You might even want to throw that in a bit of a parlay. I said that with, I think it was Chookagian a few weeks ago. I said that, and we cashed in there. And it makes sense. A lot of the women's fights go to decisions. She has a lot of decisions. So it just makes a lot of sense. The next one, the third Canadian fighter, Marc-Andre Barriault, and then Chidi Njokuani. The third Canadian fight, Barriault is making his return after getting 2 wins last year. Very good. On the other side, Njokuani is making his first UFC appearance after getting a win on the Contender Series in September. Gotta love the Contender Series, people. But that being said, Barriault might have gotten 2 wins last year, but they were against basically nobody. And, I don't like saying that, because it might hurt people's feelings if they ever heard about it, and I don't like that. But it's kind of true. When I've never even really heard of the other person too much, yeah, you got 2 wins, but what does it actually mean, basically? Plus, his first 4 UFC fights, which were just before those 2 wins, were 3 losses and a no contest. So again, not great. So on paper, this really could go either way. I'd say the one difference between them is their size. Both of them are very large middleweights, by the way, but Chidi comes in with a 7-inch reach advantage, 7 inches. And when it's this tight, and I really do think it's this close, that really could be what makes a difference here. As for how he'll get it done, both of them don't usually get finished and tend to get late finishes if they get a finish. So that to me means we're pretty much guaranteed to see a decision here, or maybe a very late finish. But since Barriault has never been finished in his career, not even once, I'll give it a decision here. So I'm going to go Njokuani on this one. Even though Barriault has won his last 2, like I said, he lost 4 before that, and his 2 wins, nobody even, they're not really anybody that substantial. And Njokuani looked great on the Contender Series. So yeah, and like I said, Njokuani, 7-inch reach advantage. Yeah, I think that's going to make the difference. So what do we see in terms of the odds? Literally almost dead even, not literally dead even, very, very close on this one. I think it is the closest one of the night. It's the closest betting line of the night here. -105 for Njokuani. Barriault is -119. Again, they're probably looking at the fact that Barriault won his last 2. That's why he's probably slightly ahead. So, even just based on value, Njokuani is definitely the one to pick here. But not only that, I think he's going to win anyway. So I'm giving him the edge, and -105, amazing. That's the perfect one to put a few bucks on. Wow, my throat's messed up today. And the over-under, I knew there was something else. The over-under, over 2.5 rounds, -158 right now, under 2.5, +122. I would probably stay away from this one because -158, they probably are going to a decision, but at -158, is it worth it? I'm not sure. But -105 for Njokuani, very much worth it. And our final prelim that I'm going to talk about, and the final fight I'm going to talk about, and the final Canadian of the night, Hakeem Dawodu is going against Mike Trizano. Skipping, because I always looked at my script, skipping ahead a couple lines. Both of them only have 1 loss in the UFC, and they both have a lot of wins. Surprisingly, most of them have also come by split decision, which is very weird to see. That a lot of both of their wins have been by split decision in the UFC. Very interesting. Because of that, very, very tough to see who has the edge here. Very tough. Of course, what was I going to say? To make it tougher, they're almost the same age. They actually are the same age and almost have an identical reach. So really, there's not a whole lot separating either one of these. Dead even. Neither one of them really has an edge for me at all, actually. So I'll go with the one that has slightly more UFC experience And he may have fought the slightly tougher fighters when you look at it. It's very close. I'm going with Hakeem Dawodu, the Canadian, on this one. It's so dead even, though it really is. And of course, since both of them find themselves in so many decisions, like I said, we're probably going to see another decision here. That would be my guess. So just like a couple of the other fights I mentioned, this might actually be one where you put a little bit on the underdog because it's so dead even. And in this case, again, over to bet 99. Dawodu is at minus 180. I don't think that is deserved at all. I think it should be, like I said, I think it should be like the last fight, minus 105, minus 119. This is so dead even. It really could go either way. And Trizano is at plus 145. So, I mean, if we're talking about value, put a little bit on Trizano. Makes a lot of sense here. Again, though, I'm slightly leaning towards Dawodu, but again, because it's so razor thin, just to put a little bit of extra risk on it, maybe throw some money at Trizano instead. For the over-under, over 2.5 rounds, minus 209, makes sense. Under 2.5, plus 140. Like I said, they get in so many decisions. That makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't put anything on the over-under on this one for sure. So yeah, I'm saying Dawodu by decision, but it really could go either way. And I mean, I hate to say it as a Canadian myself, of course, but Canadians usually lose in the UFC. So, maybe you want to not go with the Canadian on this one. And it's good to remember that, of course, in some of the other ones I said, which is why, not looking good for Barrio there. And that's why even Davis, like I said, it's so close on that one. They might get the Canadian curse and lose. Always possible. We could see 0-4 for Canada. We don't want to see it, but it could happen. I'm guessing probably we'll see 1-3. That's what I think we're going to see. I think at least one of them is going to get a win. I would say it's either going to be Alexis Davis or Dawodu. I would say probably. Who are the other two? Now I need to look through. I want to make sure I said the right ones. Yeah, that's who I would be guess would get one of the wins if I was going to pick just one of them. Anyway, are there any good parlays here? Oh, that's a weird one. Junior one. Oh, right. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's so many. This might be one of the ones where either you kind of put together, like the women's one, like I said, that being over 2.5, and then maybe throwing in somebody, probably, like Allen, obviously at minus 400. He's a great choice to have. Maybe Strickland, maybe Rachmanov, throwing a parlay. But the parlays are looking a bit shaky here. So if you're looking to really put in a couple of risky parlays, there's definitely some choices here. But it's a tougher one. There's no obvious ones like normal. Normally, there's like 2 or 3 where it's like, okay, we're probably getting some money back on this one. But this one, this fight card, ooh, I'm not sure. And that's why it's going to be so exciting. It's a sleeper card, folks. Going to be exciting. We know it. We know it's going to happen. So that is the end of the stream today. Of course, all of my accounts are in the description below. Twitter, Instagram. I think Twitch is on there too. And of course, those link to all of my other stuff as well, all the YouTube stuff and everything. And if you want to see the other sports, Area 51 is on there as well, of course. There's a link to the website down there too. They've got all the sports for you. And of course, I am the MMA guy, of course. So I can't wait to see all these Canadians out there. Let's represent Canada well. How about that? Let's get some wins. Let's go 4-0. Prove me wrong. Let's go 4-0. How about that? I'll see you next week. And my God, do we have a good card to talk about next week? We've got UFC, what is it, 271? Yeah, 271. Whitaker, Adesanya. Holy smokes, folks. There's the rest of the card is crazy too. There's Tai Tuivasa and Lewis. My God, the interviews are going to be amazing. Anyway, that's it for me. I will see you next week. See you later.